Some NASCAR Cup Series charters are for sale, who's downscaling, and who's expanding to 3 cars for 2025.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, these guys! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Hey Gearheads, hope that you're off to a really great Easter weekend. Welcome on into the program. I'm Alan Bailey. We have so much to cover. Charters are for sale. Which charters are looking to sell, which are looking to expand, plus the Sonoma tire test concluded. What did we learn? What can we expect to see from when we head there in a few weeks? And was there really a distillery and moonshining potentially happening under the grandstand over at North Wilkesboro Speedway, or is that what they want you to think? And a ride got announced for Anthony Alfredo. We will talk about that, plus your hot takes and a whole lot more. And before we get started, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come back for the next video before we go any further. And as always, you can always log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Yes, let's start with the Sonoma tire test. NASCAR and Goodyear concluded a 2-day tire test at the newly repaved Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. And I gotta say, the hills are alive and green and beautiful, and why the hell aren't we racing there in the winter, tail end of the winter, early spring? Why do we go there in the middle of the summer when everything's dead? Everything looks awesome right now. We should be out there. And by the way, did nobody tell Joe Gibbs Racing you should probably paint the car or put some kind of wrap or some kind of detail? You had the number 19 of Martin Truex Jr. from Joe Gibbs Racing, the 1 from Trackhouse and Ross Chastain, and the 4 car and Josh Berry from Stewart Haas Racing, 1 from each manufacturer respectfully. They get to pick who they send to these tire tests, essentially. And you had the 1 in the 4 car showing up with absolute banger paint schemes for testing, and then you had the 19 that showed up with barely a 19 on the side. Like, come on, Joe Gibbs Racing, you guys are better than this. At least I want you to be better than this. Come on, step it up. But it's impressive. 2 seconds plus faster per lap out there. We're going to see some amazingly fast lap times out there in qualifying going into the race weekend. And honestly, I'm interested to see what happens out there during the race, how it progresses, how the tire wear goes, and how everything transitions once that race gets going. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I might be going to it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. You think I should go to the Sonoma race? Would you guys like me to do a little vlogging? Let me know in the comments down below. So North Wilkesboro is getting ready for the All-Star race in May. That's a big event. They were doing a little bit of minor upkeep, and they noticed there was a little bit of a sinkhole on the front stretch underneath the grandstand, so they removed some seats, and they found a very large sinkhole with 700 plus square feet underneath the grandstand, and immediately NASCAR Speedway Motorsports came out and said, "It was a moonshining cave. Look at the history. Look at how amazing this is." But there was no actual proof of any moonshining equipment or anything down there at all. It was just essentially a giant sinkhole. And I'm going to go ahead and ask the question, how do we just not know it isn't just a giant sinkhole and that there was no moonshining happening down there? Yes, rumors have been around forever that that's where moonshining was taking place back in the day, but there's no real evidence to support that. It seems like it's just one of those like positive PR grabs that NASCAR is going for to try to build hype around this event, and I get it. They want to sell out, and I don't think that they've sold out at this point. I think they're going to get very close. Last year it sold out and it put on a pretty okay show, but with the new repave out there, I think it's going to put on a banger, and I'm going to keep on harping it. North Wilkesboro deserves a points-paying weekend for the Truck, Xfinity, and the Cup Series, period. I don't know if all of them can be housed there on any one given weekend because of size limitations, but I do think that we do need to have that conversation for 2025. We also got word that Fast Pasta himself, Anthony Alfredo, is going to be attempting the Talladega race with Beard Motorsports and Dude Wipes on the car, and pretty banger of a paint scheme if I'm being honest. I mean, listen, Dude Wipes has sponsored Anthony Alfredo in a number of different series for years now, and they bring banger paint schemes whenever they come to the racetrack, so really cool paint scheme. I love this little race team that could, seriously. They have 1 full-time employee, and I absolutely love it, and Linda Beard, I wish you all the best. I really hope to see that thing have a really good run at Talladega on April 21st when we run out there. And a follow-up to a story that we did just a few days ago, you saw the rumors that NASCAR was interested in purchasing a 50% stake in the Long Beach Grand Prix, and now we're hearing that that deal might already be dead because somebody else has stepped up and said, no, I'm purchasing the 50% stake, I'm keeping it with IndyCar and keeping NASCAR out. Is that for the best? I don't know, honestly. I hope to see that event thrive, but there has been a lot of controversy around that event for years. Locals somewhat love it, somewhat hate it, more hate it, but whenever there's a street course and local businesses involved, there tends to be a little hostility around there, and the city council is the city council in Long Beach, so we'll continue to see what happens. All right, the big controversy, the big rumor floating around this week: which charters are for sale and who's potentially going to be buying them? Oh boy, this is a big what-if scenario. Nothing is official. None of these are confirmed. These are just the rumors currently floating around in the garage area. So let's speculate. My favorite. So it's very clear. Everything at Colleague Racing is not going according to plan. Daniel Hemrick essentially bought his ride in the 31 car, bringing his own sponsors up from the Xfinity Series into the Cup Series, and that program is not exactly firing on all cylinders. Let's just say the 16 is quite literally a, you want to drive in the Cup Series, bring your sponsor and come on in. This weekend at Richmond, Chevrolet is going to be on the hood of the number 16 with Ty Dillon in the car? Yikes. And let's be very clear here. Grandpappy is paying for Ty Dillon to be in that number 16 car. Chevy is just frankly a longtime sponsor of RCR and looks a hell of a lot better on the racetrack than having an RCR logo on the car or a Ty Dillon logo on the car. So essentially RCR paid for that ride and Chevrolet is getting a freebie race essentially. Good for them. But let's be honest, that will be a caution at some point this Sunday in the Cup Series with Ty Dillon driving. But effectively, Colleague went from a two-car organization full-time to one car that is running for the championship and one that has a rotation of drivers that frankly has their own sponsor dollars to be put into that race. So let's be honest here. Colleague is not only getting prize money from that team racing every single week, but they're also getting essentially money from their driver for putting themselves into that car. So right now, Colleague is frankly making a good amount of money on that number 16, even though most often than not, they don't do so well. And let's be very clear here. They are not trying to be better on the racetrack. They are trying to survive at this point. I wish them nothing but the best, but clearly they are not improving the on-track racing product. They are simply a field filler at this point, and I feel very comfortable using that term because that's exactly what they are. They are out there simply because they have to because of their charter agreement. Now, will we see that charter be leased out next year in 2025? God, I hope so. I would really like to see that charter go to an organization that wants to run a competitive car for the championship with the aspirations of racing in the playoffs. Colleague would love to do that, but realistically, they do not have the capabilities, the driver set, or the technology in-house in order to put frankly competitive cars on the racetrack at this time. I feel bad for them. I wish that they did, but that's just the reality of where that organization is right now. They built up a little too quick and they're suffering on track because of it. Now, does that mean that they will be selling their charter for 2025? If I were them, I would, honestly. I'd back it down to one single race and maybe lease that charter out to another organization, if not straight up sell it. But who else could potentially be selling a charter or leasing a charter out for the 2025 season? I saw some rumors floating around that Spire is looking to unload one of their 3 charters. They just got that charter. I do not think that they're trying to downsize. I think that Spire is trying to build that 3-car organization, and I think that they're doing that this year. This is a build year for them. The 7 car is doing pretty decently. The 77 is surprising everybody with Carson in that car, but the 71 is struggling. But that is a new car. That is a new team altogether. They're just building. Give them a season to get some seat time under their belts, and come maybe in the playoffs, the last 10 races of the season, maybe we can start to see some decent runs out of that organization and out of that team. But for now, I don't see Spire selling or leasing one of their 3 charters in 2025. The other rumor that I saw floating around is Stewart Haas Racing, and I definitely do think that Stewart Haas, once they get out of the current contract with Ford, that is up at the end of the 2024 season, I believe, maybe they'll back it down to 3 cars. It's very clear by the number of Haas tooling sponsorships we see on the 41 that they don't really have the sponsor dollars to back that team full time. Ryan Prix does bring his own sponsors into that organization as well to run some of the races, but they are still clearly looking for sponsors, particularly with the 10 car and Noah Gragson, who, by the way, is having a pretty decent season. But per the current contract with Ford that Stewart Haas Racing has, they need to run 4 full-time cars in the Cup Series. Now, if Stewart Haas Racing, frankly, signs another extension with Ford, which I do not think that they will do, maybe that extension can back it down to a 3-car organization. Maybe they sign with Ford. Maybe they jump ship over to Toyota. Maybe if Dodge and Honda ever get it together and get back into the Cup Series, or in Honda's case, get into the Cup Series, maybe that deal comes together. But for now, I don't think that that's happening in 2025, maybe not even 26 or 27 realistically. So where does Stewart Haas Racing go next year? I don't know, but I do not think that they're going to be with Ford in the current capacity that they're with Ford. It feels like they're an afterthought over at Ford. It feels like Tony Stewart and Gene Haas have, I don't want to say given up on the Cup Series program, but they definitely aren't putting all of their time and their attention into that program, and it's suffering. It very much is. And for, what is this, the 3rd, 4th year in a row, we've seen a major penalty out of that team, so maybe backing down to 3 teams is what's better for that organization in the long run. But with that in mind, who could potentially be expanding their organizations in 2025 looking to pick up a charter? The biggest one that comes to my mind, there's 2 of them, Trackhouse. Clearly, they are looking to expand. If it wasn't for the current charter agreement and the current financial model of the charter agreement, I think that Trackhouse would run 4 full-time Cup Series program cars in 2024. Honestly, I think they would, had it not been for that huge cost for those charters. You do have Zane Smith over there at Trackhouse as a Trackhouse driver. You have SVG, both waiting in the wings, both frankly, probably wanting to get back under that Trackhouse umbrella. Will it happen? I don't know, honestly. It depends on, frankly, if Trackhouse can find the money and if they can put the deal together. And I think that they definitely could. Keep an eye on them to expand to a 3-car organization, if not in 25, in 26. Same with 2311. They've been chomping at the bit to expand to a 3-car organization. The new airspeed facility, not a race shop, that they've expanded to and that they've opened up for the 2024 season has 4 hauler bays for 4 Cup Series teams. They want to be a 4-car organization at some point down the road. You got to be a 3-car organization before you make it to 4, and I think that Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan are ready for 2025. The question is where does that charter come from? I do think that Colleague and Stewart Haas are likely candidates to lease or unload one of their charters, but again, gonna have to wait and see how everything plays out. And Denny Hamlin was talking about him jumping over and racing one of his own cars at 2311. I don't think it's gonna happen, maybe not next year or the following year, but maybe 3 years from now. Maybe Hamlin's in his own 2311 Toyota. Maybe he cuts ties altogether with Joe Gibbs Racing. I don't know. This is going to be we have to see how sponsorship dollars shake up, how management over at Joe Gibbs Racing shakes up, but it's going to be fascinating to watch. The other team that is looking to expand to a 3rd car, and I don't think that it's going to happen for 2025, honestly, is RFK, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. I do think that they will do it sooner rather than later, but I don't think it's happening in 2025, to be frank. They're still trying to build that program or rebuild that program up, and even though last year was a rousing success, clearly Keselowski and the 6 car are still missing a little something over there. Yeah, they've had some really good runs this year, but until Keselowski and Buescher both get into victory lane this season, I don't think that they're necessarily going to pull the trigger on a 3rd car over there. But I do think that Justin Haley in that 51 is probably a likely candidate to take over a 3rd car over at RFK when they eventually do expand to a 3-car organization. Arguably, the 51 and the 15 are both RFK cars with the alliance that they currently have over there. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to be unloading a charter for 2025? Who do you think could potentially be picking up a charter for 2025? Let me know in the comments down below. And speaking of the comments down below, it is time to get to your hot takes, my favorite part of the show, where we go ahead and open up the comments down below for your comments and your hot takes here on the program. And we will go ahead and start with this one. Are we going to forget the racing at Road America was terrible? I don't think it was, honestly. It played out like a road course race where there was a various degrees of strategies. Yes, Tyler Reddick kind of stunk up the show a little bit, but I was okay with the racing at Road America in the Cup Series. The Xfinity and the Truck Series put on a hell of a show too. And honestly, Road America is about going there, physically being there and getting on a golf cart and going all around that racetrack, treating the whole thing like a giant backyard barbecue, which is exactly the atmosphere NASCAR needs to aim for their 4th of July weekend, which is why I liked that racetrack on that weekend so much. I think it fit everything that track has to offer perfectly, and I think that NBC did an okay job of capturing that, honestly. It was decent, but I think that fans need to go to that racetrack and experience it, and it was a really, really, really good crowd out there, so give it a shot. Hot take! Watkins Glen and Sonoma will be the only two road courses on the schedule again because many fans hate road courses and want NASCAR to only race on ovals. Yes, you look at it, Sonoma and Watkins Glen were the only two road courses for years, and we saw bangers in the early 2010s out there, particularly Watkins Glen, and I do think that we can get back there. I just think that the current car needs to be tweaked a little bit, the tires need to change a little bit, and everything needs to change a little bit with the road course package in order to perfect the racing product with this new car. The problem is we're not there yet. Give it some time. I do think that having 4 or 5 road course races on the schedule isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we're going to be expanding up to Canada and, if not Mexico, sooner than we think. Kyle Busch will drive the 3, and Honda will come to NASCAR with the Honda Accord and the NASCAR Cup Series, Honda Civic Type R in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the Honda Ridgeline in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I do think that that's probably the model lineup that they will go to. That's what I would do if I was in charge over at Honda, but I don't know, like Kyle Busch in the 3 car, I think that that's kind of a no-brainer, but I mean, I don't know. I think that he's really built up his brand in that 8 car. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think the question is who takes over the 3 car. I mean, if Austin Hill cries enough, he's going to get that 3 car from Austin Dillon whenever Austin decides to hang it up. But I think that after we saw kind of Austin Hill's true colors over at COTA, the question is who takes a chance on Austin Hill now? I think his best bet is to wait out either Kyle Busch or Austin Dillon retiring. I think that, frankly, Kyle Busch is closer to retirement than Austin Dillon at this point, but at the same time, how long does Austin Hill wait in that RCR pipeline? He wants to be in the Cup Series, and at what point does he jump up into the Cup Series with another team, and who takes a shot on him knowing that he's the guy who's going to try to bully his way into victory lane and not be successful at it more often than not? It is Easter weekend this weekend. NASCAR is heading out to Richmond with the Xfinity Series Saturday. The Cup Series taken to the track Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox, the big boy. I am not against racing on Easter. I like the fact that it's a night race, but I do think that this race should be at North Wilkesboro this weekend. I think that this would be, honestly, the perfect opportunity for NASCAR. You get your Easter marquee event. It's at North Wilkesboro. You make it a throwback weekend and have a really good night race at North Wilkesboro. Easter Sunday night, I think, would be really damn cool. I think that Richmond isn't a bad place to do it, but put it in North Wilkesboro. It's closer for these teams to get to, so they can spend Easter Sunday morning with their families, I should say, and then fly to the racetrack or race to the racetrack or helicopter in, however we get them to the racetrack that night. And hopefully down the road, we see family members head to the racetrack with the crew members and people who work in the industry so that we can essentially celebrate Easter Sunday at the racetrack. I think it's a really cool idea, but again, it's a pipe dream. We're going to see how things play out. I really want North Wilkesboro to get a points-paying date. I'm going to keep harping on that, before I talk about Rockingham getting a points-paying date. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're there, mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track. Happy Easter, y'all.